a couple more just joining us now if you want to let them in, Charlie. But yeah. So to start off, Outdoors Queensland respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands where we gather from right across the state, and we pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important roles that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples play on the land, sky and waterways that have been used for outdoor activities for countless generations. I'm in Brisbane, or Meanjin, on Yagara country, which is a place of the Jagera and Turrbal peoples. So yeah, welcome, and yeah, we'll keep on moving. We also acknowledge the support that's provided to outdoor activities, funding and other support by the Queensland Government that supports the outdoor sectors, and acknowledge the work that various government departments and ministers do in relation to outdoor activities. And that includes the team in Sport and Recreation, who are in the Tourism and Innovation and Sport, Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. So thanks to them. This is episode 23 of Coffee and Conversation for this year. I'm Dom Courtney, Executive Officer of Outdoors Queensland, and our Marketing Communications Manager, Charlie Collins, is my co-host for today's session. We've given Mark who's a regular co-pilot for these. He's unavailable for this one. So a big welcome to everyone, and thanks for joining us. As I said before, the recordings of these sessions are available on our website and on our YouTube channel. If you'd like to add anything as we go along, please feel free to chime in. Just a little bit of an agenda for today's meeting. We'll go through these. I just wanted to remind of the Outdoors Queensland Awards, which were held a couple of weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago. That was a really good event, and we're really pleased to bring that. The videos, the finalists and the award winners are available on our website. So if you want to have a look at that, please check it out. It's nice for that not to just be a one-off and done. We like the winners of the awards and the finalists to be recognised for quite some time. A couple of other things on the agenda there, and as we go through, we'll come to this. I'm sure everyone's keen to talk a bit about the changes in relation to COVID protocols, so that's always a wonderful topic, and we'll get to that. So yeah, but we also just have a couple of other pieces there to talk about as we go through, as we normally do. Inside the outhouse, I see Pete Smith's joined us. Welcome, Pete. The next session on the 22nd of November, on Monday. Did you want to talk about that, Pete, quickly?
Yeah, Dom. Hello, everyone. Good to be back in Queensland, and next week, Monday the 22nd at outhouse time of, now I'm back in Queensland, 13 minutes past 1700 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon for Queenslanders. We'll be bringing you a review of the Association of Experiential Education Conference, which was a virtual conference held over last weekend, and Dave and I both attended that event, and we'll be providing a summary inside the outhouse. So I hope you can join us. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Pete. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there because I've got a couple of other things on Monday, but certainly keen to learn more about that conference. It sounds like it was pretty good. The other couple of reminders here: the Outdoor Council of Australia guidance note relating to bushfire and severe weather conditions. I mentioned that the last few weeks. Just wanted to flag that it's a preparation thing. It's for your planning. It's not a response document, but yeah, it is available on the OCA website. And Charlie's just shared the links. I should have mentioned the chat before. Charlie will put a few links as we go through in there too, and we'll share that later on. The next one, that the COVID-19 business support grants, that goes back to the lockdown impacted businesses from the lockdown in August. It's closed now for small businesses, for employing businesses, but I believe it's still open for sole traders until the end of November if you are eligible. So if there's anyone in that situation who's eligible, they do say if you are eligible and you apply, you will be successful in getting that grant. So I just wanted to flag that it is still available for some operators. The other one there, the Outdoors Victoria chat next week, they're focusing on the adventure activity standards and insurance. So that's Tuesday morning next week. So I just wanted to flag that as well. I don't think I've put the link in there for you, Charlie, on that one, but it's just, I think it's outdoorsvictoria.org.au, I think. Yeah. And because I'm so organised, I actually put them up on the next screen as well. But the other thing I wanted to flag was the Outdoor Educators Association of Queensland having their Far North Queensland Fools Forum on the 3rd and 4th of December. So Fools is Facilitators of Outdoor Learning, which I think they found a good acronym and made the words fit it, which is always good. Sorry for throwing acronyms there. I don't like 3 acronyms in a row, but that's up in the Atherton Tablelands at Tinaroo Environmental Ed Centre on the 3rd and 4th of December. I'm going to go up there, COVID willing, and and join the group there. So that should be really good. Next up, I'm going to hand over to, we're joined by Terry Hamilton, and Terry's and I hope I don't get this wrong, Terry, the Social Sustainability Manager for Communities from Lend Lease. And we've invited Terry to come along and speak about opportunities relating to outdoor activities for residents of Lend Lease developments, but particularly at the Yarra Bilba development, which adjoins the Plunkett Conservation Park. So I'll just hand over to Terry, and you'll be able to share your screen, Terry. So welcome.
Thank you, Dom. Sorry, it wouldn't let me do 2 things at once there. Let me know when you can see that.
Yes. All good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Lovely to be able to chat to you. And thank you, Dom, for letting me steal some time on the agenda. I'll get straight into it. Angela and I have been chatting about quite a few things lately, and there's some really great opportunities to work together with Outdoors Queensland and your members in Yarra Bilba. So as you explained, I'm Social Sustainability Manager, which is a bit confusing often for some people, but I do a lot of stakeholder engagement, community development, economic development, workforce participation initiatives. I'm not sure why it's not letting me go to the next slide. Okay, so just to give some scale about the size of the project, it'll have 45,000 population once it's completed. You would have been, no doubt it would be very difficult to not have seen the media blitz that's happened in the last 6 or so months. We're on radio, TV, like it's everywhere, because we've just been through a big brand repositioning. And that is because really we've gotten to about almost a quarter of the population of the project. So we're heading to 10,500 residents who are there already. About 3,500 dwellings there. We'll have 17,000 by completion. So to give you a bit of understanding of where it is, that's where the IKEA is on the motorway, and then it's just past Logan Village, between Logan Village, Jimboomba and Tamborine. It's over 2,000 hectares. It's an enormous project. It's a 30-year development timeframe. So we're 10 years in. I think the 10-year anniversary is beginning of March next year. 45 k's southeast of Brisbane. And we will have a town centre. So it's a township. It's not a city, it's a township. We'll have a town centre, a series of neighbourhood hubs, community, education, employment facilities. So by full completion, over 50,000 people. So there is a lot that's already there. And then I'll talk you through what we've got underway at the moment, because we sort of did about 200 sales in the last financial year. This year we're expecting in the 500s. So it has been insanely busy for the last 12 months. So some of the things that are underway at the moment is the day hospitals under construction, the taverns under construction. There's a new community hub under construction. All 4 of the existing primary and secondary schools are doing stage 2 of their campuses, and the 5th school the site is about to hand over to EQ next month. Of most interest to your members is that 25% open space and parklands. We have 120 kilometres of bike and walking paths already. As you mentioned, Dom, we're in the design process with the trailhead that links into Plunkett Conservation Park. I'll show you on the master plan. We've obviously got Wickham Timber Reserve, Plunkett Conservation Park and Wickham National Park, all sort of adjoining the eastern side of the project. I will send this to everyone so that you've got this information afterwards. We've had a big focus in the last 12 months on really pushing with the sports clubs. We've got 5 existing established clubs, and then there's about 4 or 5 who are in the process of establishing themselves. So there's been a lot of momentum there. I know they were hit really hard through COVID, but the families are really supporting the clubs and getting engaged. So to give you a bit of a perspective, this is all developed. When you come into Yarrabilba, you come into this entry here off Waterford Tambourine. There's only the 1 entry in so far. There's a big district centre and a Coles, there's an IGA, there's a lot of different retail there. The first sport facility, the Shaw Street Sport and Community Hub is there. Then you come down to the Catholic Primary and the State Primary, and a bit further along the New Catholic High School and the State High School. These fields here, which are activated by Touch Footy, Rugby Union and Rugby League, are already in place, and we're working on fields, the ovals here, that will focus for AFL and cricket. And then as we get further along, here's our Sales and Information Centre. Yarrabilba Drive will be extended here. You get to about here at the moment. It will be extended, and this roadway will be extended. This is precinct 4 where we're selling at the moment, and a lot of this is sold, this so far. This is where there is the next district sports park and district recreational park, and a special neighbourhood park that has a rocky outcrop called South Rock, which is a culturally significant site. So moving along, as far as the sport and rec facilities, that is that next sport facility and that one there. And this here is where the link with the trailhead links you into Plunkett. So this power easement is also a unique aspect there that we're just getting into now. We're allowed to actually curate activation spaces in that power easement. There's specific rules about what you can and can't do, but there is a brilliant opportunity, because this is permeable here between both sides of the project, being able to access across into the town centre eventually. This is that precinct 3 concept there, and obviously with the schools adjacent to that. And then this is the precinct 4. So this bit here, we're designing at the moment. So we're looking at court sports and a learn to ride, a BMX pump track, hopefully some sort of mountain bike learn, skilling sort of piece, but that's still something we're discussing with council. I might go back and show you where the ultimate, so down here is ultimately where the official mountain bike link to the trailhead will be, but we won't get to that area for another 10 years. So we're conscious that people will still bring their mountain bikes in. So we're working on that piece at the moment to understand what we can and can't do to support that to be done in the best possible way. The other part that's really interesting is we are working on so this is the State High School and the Catholic High School, working on a really innovative partnership with 6 partners who've brought $7.5 million capital funding to the next community hub. And that's a partnership between Department of Communities, EQ, DESBIT, Logan City Council, Brisbane Catholic Education and ourselves to bring to deliver an integrated community hub. And that is quite a really innovative partnership that they've just started construction, and that'll be open next August. I guess from that, because of the scope and the scale of that partnership, there's some really clear outcomes that we're all 6 parties are working towards around connecting, learning, earning, innovating. I guess I mentioned that because some of the real focus areas for us at the moment, if you ask me the top 4 that I'm focused on for Yarrabilba at the moment, it's definitely outdoor recreation, sport, and a play strategy. Local jobs and skilling is absolutely critical to our project. We have a local jobs target that's a stretch target of 13,000 local jobs. And we do a lot to encourage community-led activation. That's obviously been very difficult with COVID, but we have grants programs and lots of different things that we do to encourage the community ownership of their activation. And then, of course, I might go back a few slides. We have some of the most significant cultural heritage sites in Southeast Queensland. There's yesterday I was filming at the rock shelters, which are up in this area up here, and there's 2 ground level rock shelters that we've just done works around the park that connects there, and there's a really great space there that's been designed to allow classroom groups to come in and actually learn more about those shelters. This special park that I mentioned here, South Rock, that is a quite high rocky outcrop that you can basically take in all of the vistas of the mountain ranges that surround the Yarrabilba project. So it's quite a beautiful spot. And then further down here, there is a significant waterhole that we won't get down to that part of the project for another 10 years, but that we are working on a project that links, you know, the importance of all of those 3 areas and helps with the storytelling so that that's really clear with residents and students, and they feel a sense of ownership. Obviously, there's linkages there to the Bora grounds that are further south in Tamborine. So what else did I want to say? I think for us at the moment, Angela and I have been talking a lot about working together on how we skill up young families. So we hear that there are a lot of people who move to Yarrabilba for a fresh start from other parts of Logan, from Northern Gold Coast and beyond. Something we hear over and over again is that people are really looking to let their kids have a much better experience of school than they had. We really appreciate that skilling aspect and lifelong learning aspect is really important. And with an average age of 25 at the last census, we have a lot of young families. So there's a real opportunity there to skill them up, build their confidence. You know, they might not usually go out and opt to go for a hike. So we want to make them feel like that's an opportunity that they should explore. Something that we run on the project and have done since 2016 is a facility called The Exchange. And The Exchange is all about jobs, skilling, enterprise. It's a free service to our community. So job seekers can use it for free. Employers can use it to recruit. It's a space that training can happen, and it's a space that small businesses and home-based businesses can access, you know, the support services that they need. That service that we fund will continue on in that permanent home in the community hub. And what we see as a very big opportunity there is to link more into the skilling of volunteers. And we'd like to sort of do some more formal stuff there and build that capacity. We've been already working with some of the sports clubs and looking at what we can do to assist. Something I recently I was at the Childhood Summit with Angela as well, and something we're also bringing on board is that play strategy, giving children the freedom to play, the nature play aspects, because of course we can build some very beautiful playgrounds that are very safe, but we also need to allow kids to you know, take risks. And then the children's voice aspect of, we do a lot of engagement with students, but we tend to engage a lot with high school students because it's a bit easier. But getting that access to the children's voice, the younger children and the primary school children as well. I think that's, and then obviously that storytelling project we're doing with Jabri at the moment with the cultural heritage stuff, that's a big focus for us. So I might stop sharing my screen. How do I stop sharing? that gone?
Yes. Terrific.
Excellent.
Okay. All right.
So let me know
Thanks
if you've
very
got
much,
any
Terry.
questions. That was a very short, sharp.
Yeah, I thank you for that. Do appreciate it. Pete Smith had a question in the chat there about the power easement. So that is the power line alignment. And I guess your point was if it runs through right to the township, there'd be opportunities if you can ride your mountain bike or walk along there. It
Totally.
sounds like it'd link up nicely to a coffee shop or a bike shop or whatever else in the town centre. Yeah.
Yes. So we're hoping that we have Traction is operating and has been operating for several years from our old sales and information centre, running their bike building program. We're looking at, any opportunities that encourage our residents to get outdoors and take advantage of those trails and paths and any opportunities for curating that space. It's like this free space to do some new and innovative things that our residents will love to use.
Yeah, excellent. Gavin Dale from Bushwalking Queensland has just raised his hand. So Gav, did you want to ask a question for Terry as well? You're on mute, mate.
Just the last couple of weeks, I've been down and had a look at the Logan Village Yarra Bilbah rail trail.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if it's going to be extended down on its original route through Yarra Bilbah, and also if there's going to be links across to South Rock and to the Plunket Conservation Park.
Yes, definitely. I'll have to get a better update on the timing of when they will all link up, but yes, that is absolutely the intention, that it links to Plunket and it will continue linking right through the project. And I understand that the unveiling of that is in 2 weeks' time. It'll be open.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're nearly finished.
If you want to send us more detail about that too, Terry, be happy to share that with our network as well. I'm sure there'll be a few like Gavin who'd be interested in knowing more detail on that as well. Yeah.
Definitely. And I know that they're having some positive discussions about that rail trail then continuing from Logan Village to Bethania. So I know that's been on the agenda for quite some time. So I'm hearing positive things that could get up. So that's very exciting as well.
Terrific. Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions for Terry? No, I'm not seeing any, and none in the chat. So thank you very much for joining us, Terry. And it is really interesting, and I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and it's great to see that focus on outdoor activities from Lend-Lease, and I guess from developers in general. And it's about the livability of your communities that you're developing as well. So thank you very much for that.
Totally, no problem. Please get in touch with me if you've got any ideas and want to work with us. We're really keen to take advantage of that link to Plunket. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, Terry.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Thanks to Terry for joining us. That was really good. Obviously, moving right along, we've got the world of COVID restrictions and the changes to that world. Don't laugh, Gavin. It's a serious matter, mate. I get a little bit down on this one, but obviously it's the big topic that we need to talk about. So I can rip through the next few slides fairly quickly because not much has changed as far as our roadmap. We're still at that stage 3, all of Queensland, and that has been since the 8th of October, which seems like for 7 weeks, it's almost a world record, I think, that we haven't had a new roadmap. But we've obviously had other details. The other stuff about operations, that's all exactly the same as far as unrestricted businesses for outdoor-only organisations or the activities. But if you have any indoor spaces, then there's still the restrictions. You need to comply with a checklist. Those other things, the restriction hasn't changed. Sorry, the public health direction hasn't changed, so that's exactly the same as it has been for the last fortnight. That number 29 is still in effect, and so we've still got that exemption from the occupant density for short-term accommodation, which includes outdoor education, etc. So that's in there still, and we also still have that exemption from the Check-in Queensland app for a school, sporting team, or community group attending a venue as part of an excursion, not required to check in school-aged children. So obviously the adults still need to check in. The next slide is the roadmap about the travel, and there's this slide, and then there's one about international travel. That's kicked in now, obviously, with the 70%, and we saw that this week because it kicked in a little bit earlier than expected. They had forecast that to start on the 19th of November. I think it started on Monday, Tuesday, with those changes with you can do the home quarantine if vaccinated, etc. If you're fully vaccinated, if you come from a hotspot. So yeah, it's good to see us progressing along that system as well. The other one, just quickly, that hasn't changed is the Education Queensland COVID-19 planning framework. That's been the same one since the 20th of August. So it's still says that state schools can go on camps and excursions at Department of Ed facilities or at non-Department of Ed facilities, as long as the venue's got a COVID-safe checklist for restricted businesses. So that hasn't changed as well. So there's still, that's going on. I think the big piece that people want to talk about is this document, which I'm sure most of you would have seen this diagram in the last week or so. And there's a lot of commentary about this distinction between vaccinated and unvaccinated people. I guess the key thing out of all this, don't really want to add to all that commentary, but Outdoors Queensland does support vaccinations to ensure that outdoor activities can keep thriving in Queensland. The big thing for us at the moment is outdoor activities aren't specifically noted in that diagram. So the question is, what are the rules going to be for outdoor providers, outdoor activity providers, outdoor education providers? And it's probably really going to be the detail that's in the public health direction that hasn't been published yet. But once it's published, we will have more detail on it. It's probably difficult to read on your screens, but sort of the key statements that are relevant there, the bottom line of the table has the heading there, other settings, which says essential retail, other retail, public transport, places of worship, funerals, etc. So it doesn't specifically say, outdoor activity or outdoor education. And then it talks about you can have both vaccinated and unvaccinated in other settings. And then it says COVID-19 density restrictions may still apply as per the roadmap, the current roadmap. So if it's as per the current public health direction, then that's probably not a big deal for us. So we've already been operating under that for the last however long, so the current one's been in place for quite a while, as I said. So that's sort of the questions that needs to be answered. But then it also says in the italic, in the fine print at the bottom of this diagram, it says for other settings not specifically outlined above, attendance is unrestricted, but other measures may apply, i.e. physical distancing. So again, that sort of stuff can contribute to this, and we just need to get to what the detail is. And obviously, as soon as we have that detail, we'll share it with you. We shared a bulletin this week, which was some information from Sport and Rec that we got late on Friday. And obviously, we've asked a few questions, and we're going to keep asking questions and try to get more clarity. But I just want to open it up if anyone has questions on this particularly, but on vaccination status in general, I suppose. More than happy just to open the floor. I think this deserves a good discussion. Does anyone want to lead away?
The FAQs shed a bit more light with accommodation because it has a comment about the unvaccinated can stay at accommodation venue, but they can't access amenities and facilities. And I know the caravan parks and resorts are also seeking direction on this because we're quite a complicated venue, really. So
we're quite a complicated group of people, I think, Andrew. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the other one, I actually just saw an article, and I haven't even had a chance to read it, on the ABC website, where some of the hotels are saying they're just going to limit it to vaccinated. I guess that's a luxury if you have that many people wanting to come to your venue, that you can do that. But yeah, I think you're right. There's a specific thing in the Q&As, and the Q&As are good. And I don't know, Charlie, if I put the link to that in there, but I can pop that into the chat. The link to the Q&As is really useful, because what it does, there's quite a lot of questions that I'll just pop that in there now. Like, it specifically says, if you stay at a hotel, yeah, you can't go. You can stay there, but if you're unvaccinated, but you can't go to the bar or the restaurant and eat there. So yeah, there's those sort of things. Mark, you've got your hand up. Did you want to have a comment or a question, mate?
I've got a question, if possible.
Hey, mate.
So obviously, you know, we're a predominantly school campsite. We do weddings and stuff as well from time to time, and we're conscious that the weddings line on the thing you've got on the screen there obviously applies to our weddings and whatnot. So I guess our question then is around staffing and that sort of thing. I don't know if anyone's got any clarity on this. If we're to stereotype our industry a little bit, perhaps some of the you know, we do have a proportion of alternate type lifestyle people sometimes. And some of those people, I'm speaking for our staff, are making a choice to not vaccinate. So at the moment, our understanding is that that's okay based on this document you've got in front of us here, but it's vague. We're anticipating, just being that EQ is a government organisation, I would be surprised if they don't mandate anywhere they go needs to have vaccinated staff and whatnot. So I guess it's all, you know, we don't know. It's all very what ifs and those sorts of things. We're just curious, I guess, if any other organisations are considering taking a stance on it for their staffing, or if anyone has seen any government directives of that sort of nature, because it could pose a problem for us, and I'm sure everyone else, if staff are choosing to not be vaccinated.
Mate, I'll just make a comment on it, but I think this is the discussion that needs to happen, and happy to open it up to the floor. But there was talk on the radio, on the ABC radio this morning, about mandatory vaccination for all education settings. They weren't even just talking about state schools. So there was talk on the radio about that, and they gave the example of Good Start Early Learning have nationally said that every single staff member at all their centres has to be vaccinated, double vaccinated. So they've just brought that in. The question is whether or not it becomes a chief health officer direction, and that I think they had the president of the Queensland Teachers Union on the radio this morning, and she was suggesting that that they think it should be a chief health officer direction. I guess that's up to the chief health officer. But the comment was also that Queensland is one of only 2 states that doesn't have that mandated for teachers, for the education system, which I was surprised by. I guess Victoria, New South Wales, WA have it. I'm not sure, maybe either Tasmania or South Australia doesn't have it for their teachers. I'm not 100% on that one.
Tassie doesn't have it. South Australia announced it this week.
Okay, yep. So much stuff going on. Yeah, so they're saying only Queensland and Tasmania doesn't have that for the education setting. So I guess it's still watch this space. Does anyone else have a comment on Mark's question, as far as is anyone taking a stand on who's going to have all their staff vaccinated and put that out there to your clients, maybe preempting that it could become a requirement anyway? I guess, Mark, that's probably the big thing, isn't it?
Dom, I'll
Danny.
comment if it helps him. Our organisation has decided as a whole to mandate vaccinations for all staff and all contract labour as of the 1st of Feb. And I guess that's based on just loosely that, you know, the risk to both staff and the types of people we're engaged with is to that level where that's the wise move. And I guess they're also following closely the Israel, Germany type models that are you know, having third and fourth waves, and knowing that, you know, even as vaccinations drop 10% efficacy by every month, that, you know, it's not going to be just the first 2 jabs either. So they'll probably mandate follow-ups as well. They haven't said that yet, though. Yes, Mark, we're losing staff. You know, each person's entitled to their own view. Yeah, we've got some pet staff that are anti-vaxxers. We've got some that are simply, you know, the risk to them personally hasn't heightened to a level where they're feeling compelled. You know, that's a real big deal for us in an industry where hospitality particularly underpins a lot of what we do, and we already can't get staff. So literally, you know, having responsibility for managing on site, I have no mechanism to staff the site with the amount of business that we have for next year, because, you know, 1, we're losing it, 2, I don't know how we're going to find them. So even if we can find vaccinated staff, what we'd have to pay them to attract them, yeah, is not what we're used to. Yeah. So,
and we're getting the same, and we are already fielding questions of clients asking if our staff are all fully vaccinated. And if they're have to be vaccinated as well.
Yes, they're asking both. Do we need to be vaccinated? We've got clients talking about cancelling because of the December 17 or before date, and them saying, well, you know, a lot of our group aren't vaccinated, and you know, we don't know whether they're going to be able to sleep, eat, party in your venue, call it that, or, you know, participate in activities, and we can't answer them. So, you know, we're talking hundreds of $1,000s worth of cancellations potentially at this point as well. So
yeah, we certainly had places the day the roadmap and whatnot came out, we had phone calls straight away with places going, you know, are your staff vaccinated? What's your requirement going to be? And we had to go, I don't know yet. Yeah. Danny, excuse my ignorance, sorry, which organisation are you guys from?
So we trade as Alexandra Park Conference Centre on the sunny coast, but we're fully owned by the Uniting Church in Australia, Queensland Synod.
Second biggest employer in
Queensland. Who, FYI, also Umbrella, Uniting Care, Wesley Mission, Blue Care, the whole lot. So second biggest employer in Queensland as a group.
Wow, okay.
Uniting Care has already made the decree for all their staff, and their effective date's the 10th of December. So that's Lifeline, you know, Blue Care, etc., already under that decree.
So Danny, so can I just interrupt there? That's not just Uniting Care's health workers, because there's a decree for the whole health system, but they're going for their whole organisation, are they?
That's correct. And so is the Synod. The Synod's going for it. You know, they I guess you could say whoever they payroll, they have a responsibility to. Then the Synod have also made that decision. So that's ministry workers, just to put that in context. So that's people doing, you know, chaplaincy support in, you know, the context of your site, through to ministers in a church, through to workers in a childcare centre. They have hundreds of those. And through to us. And head office, an office worker who's not caught by that plan at all. There's no mention of office workers in there. They've also said it for them as well. Yeah.
Right. So thanks, Danny. It actually puts it in perspective a bit as far as like you said, second biggest employer in Queensland, and there's a mandate being handed down at that level, right there. I guess sorry, mate, I was just going to ask. It isn't going to apply, and it does say there. I think the other one that people have actually asked about, I've heard a bit of discussion about churches. So it's got that on this list, places of worship there, where it does say unvaccinated people can attend, but that's a direction. So I would imagine the Uniting Church would still allow unvaccinated people to attend church, just all the workers have to be vaccinated. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. As I'm interpreting what they're releasing and what's been said, and also along the same statement, where, you know, places of worship are allowed to have vaccinated and unvaccinated people attend. It also says in the same statement that private gatherings. So my biggest question has been around, or private hires. So if we have a private hire, which all ours could be classed as, at this stage, they're classed as unrestricted, but they could impose density limits and stuff on both of those groups, churches and private hires. So I guess I am anticipating that will be covered by the private hires, but we're watching this space for do density rules apply. Yeah, I don't say any of that I said easily or for wide publication. Obviously, Dom, you said straight up front that Outdoors Queensland are pro-vaccination because it's good for the industry. Obviously, our organisation are doing it because of both the risk to staff and clients or people that we encounter. And also because of their own risk profile. In other words, the exposure of the organisation to litigation, which could go either way, you know, through staff who aren't vaccinated getting sick, or, you know, and then the story goes on. But I did attend an ACA, and I don't think, Dom, you mind me saying this, webinar the other day presented by a legal firm. And they pretty well said point blank, an employer is definitely within their right to require employees and volunteers to have vaccinations as long as they follow the process correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, more than happy, mate. That's the sort of, I couldn't attend that one the other day. It clashed with another meeting. I was going to try to, because it looked like it was interesting. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So that was Australian Camps Association, who are the Australian national peak body for camp operators. Yeah, and they had a webinar. Was that on Wednesday, Danny?
Yeah, sounds about right. I took a few, I got the slide pack out, and I guess you're supposed to be a member to get it. But, you know, basically, if I was to summarize one slide really quickly for everyone, basically says where employees fail to comply with an order or direction, e.g. get vaccinated, and employees are shown not to be ready, willing and able to do their work, they then have a frustration of contract, and we're used to that term, I guess, and an inability to perform the inherent requirements of their role. We have no automatic right to terminate them. However, after considering redeployment to alternate role, considering leave, paid or unpaid, and going through a show cause process, an opportunity to reconsider, then termination will be valid if no alternative solution can be reached. There you go.
Wow. Yeah. I guess, I mean, that comes back to, and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, or the last few sessions, is about that Fair Work Ombudsman and the directions that are on there about when it is lawful, and I think the word is lawful and reasonable to require staff to be vaccinated, and they've got a 4-tiered sort of setup that they talk about in that as well. So yeah, it's really, I think it's really crystallizing that one. Obviously, we've been talking about for a little while. The big thing that there's still some questions out there, I think, about particularly, you know, the Q&As, which I've shared in the chat there. That specifically says that, it gives an example that unvaccinated people will be able to go to a gym for exercise, but it doesn't include in there they'll be able to go bushwalking or, you know, outdoor activities for exercise as well. But I would expect it as an extension. There is an example that it gives. Andrew mentioned earlier that if you stay at a hotel, you can't go to the bar or the restaurant there if you're not vaccinated. They do give an example of golf, and they say unvaccinated people from the 17th of December would still be able to go and play golf, but they wouldn't then be able to go into the clubhouse, so the licensed part of it or the restaurant part of it. So I think the same extension you would think would apply to outdoor activities. But the big question then is also going to be for workers, and that includes volunteers. So the volunteers or paid workers, the question is going to be about vaccination status. And this slide on the screen there, it actually, when they say vaccinated, it's talking about workers and participants or end clients. So that's the other thing. For some of those settings, like where it says hospitality venues and it says hotels, pubs, clubs, taverns, bars, restaurants, cafes, and that's raised a lot of eyebrows this last week, only vaccinated staff and patrons are permitted to enter. And it even says in the Q&As that includes, there's some specific stuff in there that it's worth a look. It talks about contractors to any of those restricted businesses. And they say, if you have, say, a security contractor, if you're in one of those where your staff have to be vaccinated, then so do the contractors that you're using. It says not for delivery. If it's just a delivery, then they can enter if they're unvaccinated. But then it also says there's a section about if it was an emergency work, and the example they give is a plumber to fix a burst pipe, then an unvaccinated plumber could enter to do that work and then get out. So I guess, there's a whole lot of stuff in there. There's quite a lot of detail.
But the wording on the contract that says inside the venue. So that, to me, it denotes indoors. And that's a tricky one when you've got contractors who are outdoor eddies.
Yeah, I guess the question is, is the venue the border of your property, or is the venue the building itself? And I guess that's going to be a question that, if it's not clearly defined, it'll be either an interpretation question of the direction, because public health direction is a legal document. So it could come to that, but it could also be up to, what's a reasonable interpretation of what they're actually trying to achieve with this direction as well.
Well, the previous chief health officer consistently urged us to get outdoors because it didn't spread outdoors, allegedly. So,
yep. I still am very happy with the previous chief health officer's statement at one point last year, which was the outdoors is the safest place to be. And I think we even made a little meme out of it because we were so happy about it. So, I think it's a big piece of this. But the fact that they're as I've said, exercise has always been allowed as an activity. Even when we're in lockdown, we were able to go outside for exercise, and so were Victorians and New South Wales people. So I think the positives, and whether it's for physical health or mental health, that the outdoors offers is still a strength that we have behind us to justify the continuation of what we're doing. And I'm sure that the intention of all this is not to stop people from doing these activities. So that's what we need to just stay on the front foot with. Sorry, I'm probably droning on, but are there any questions or other comments on any of these?
I think we're in the dark until the actual public health direction's released. It's very difficult. And what we're telling groups who are calling up to see what's happening is basically that there hasn't been a release of the public health direction. Our intention is to follow government advice or orders.
Yeah, it's following the law, isn't it? I mean, they can expect nothing less than that every single operator will follow the law. And, that applies to whether it's a multi-million-dollar business or a non-profit club. We're going to follow the law. We're going to make sure that the activities are delivered in accordance with the directions. I mean, it's great that this guidance has been provided, I think. And I think they've particularly, that list of whatever it is, 8 categories, including other settings, I guess they're trying to give some guidance, particularly for the ones where if you're unvaccinated, you can't be going there. Like I'm sure the music festivals, that sort of department, that must have been a bit of a shock there for something like Woodford Folk Festival. So whether it's a shock or they were aware it was coming, that's going to make the changes. But there's also other areas like right now, there's some organisations that are already saying from the 17th of December or when this kicks in, you're going to need to be vaccinated. We're only going to take vaccinated customers. So Minjerra Bar Camping at Minjerra Bar have already said that you need to provide proof of vaccination if you're going to camp at their site, and they're only accepting vaccinated people. Even though I think technically they could take unvaccinated people there, but they've just made a decision that's what they're doing. As I said, there's some stories about other operators who are taking that sort of decision as well. And I guess that's as much as anything, it's a business decision, like Danny said. But they're applying it a little bit more strongly than what seems to be in the public health, what will be in the public health direction.
Hey, Dom, just out of interest, with the other states that have mandated that education providers or at the schools need to be double vaccinated, how's that affected the outdoor rec providers or ed providers, are they required to have their staff double vaccinated as well, since they're supplying that service to schools?
As I understand it, yeah, they are, mate. So there's been quite a lot of, I guess, scrambling to make sure people are vaccinated and make sure that they can still keep providing those services. It hasn't actually kicked in everywhere. Like, say, New South Wales, they haven't returned to school camps yet, much to the frustration of of the operators down there. And I know Laurie's been working really hard on that return, and she's highlighted the fact that she said it a few times, people can go to a nightclub, but they can't go back to school camp, which is a bit weird. Yeah, so as far as staffing, it has been just get everyone has to be vaccinated to be actually operating, and hopefully it'll be operating as of the start of term 1 next year. Victoria, similar, spoken to, so they come within what's called authorised workers, I think is the term that Victoria is using. And that's just what they're saying, that yeah, you're an authorised worker. I think it's the same thing in WA as well. So I wasn't aware of the South Australian development this week, and I don't know if that's in yet, but yeah. Also, Wayne's just put a comment there. New South Wales schools can go on day excursions, but must have sole exclusive use of the venue. So I think Victoria has a similar situation with exclusive use of venues as well, Wayne. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that space. Yeah, and I guess, Spanner, the big question is going to be what's going to happen with staff. Even the talk they had today about the education system, what they were talking about was if it was going to be a vaccine mandate for the education system, they weren't, just talking about state schools. They were including like the Good Start early learning, so early childhood centres and all education settings. So I dare say that would include outdoor ed centres as automatically. So I think if that comes in, and again, it's up in the air still whether it will be here, there seems to be some pressure for it. Yeah, that could come in. And Wayne's just said some private schools have specified double vax for staff already. Yeah. Sorry, Wayne, whereabouts are you? Camp Goodenough. Oh, okay. No worries. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, I think I've certainly been trying to keep an eye on what's going on in the other jurisdictions. I didn't join Laurie's session today. 5 minutes too far south of the border, mate. 1 minute's too far south of the border. You should be in Queensland. But it must have been awful trying to deal with that when so many of your customers would normally come from southeast Queensland and the border closure. So, yeah, can only empathise with some of what you've gone through without having lived it myself. But, yeah. That's not a good story, getting cancellations for September next year. Wayne's just put in the chat. So I think the big challenge in a lot of this is actually the fact that, what the services that our sector provides are so important to the health and well-being of the community, and the resilience, particularly from school camps that are delivered to young people. And that's why we sort of do get in there and advocate on behalf of all the work that so many people are doing is about making a difference. So I've sort of stuck on that slide for a bit. Don't know if there's other stuff that we wanted to go through as far as any of the, we sort of covered off on all these vaccination stuff, and the Fair Work Ombudsman, I've said it for the last few weeks, but I can only say it again. It is really good information on there, and it is actually important to have a look at that. But thanks to Danny for sharing that info from the ACA webinar as well. Yeah, I think it's very important to get legal advice if you are going to have that sort of mandate. Danny, did you want to say something, mate?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask again, I know you said it earlier that Friday you said you got some information or some detail from your inquiries through
Sport and Rec. We sent out a bulletin on Monday afternoon, I think, Charlie, it was. that we got it out? Yeah, so Monday we sent out a bulletin. It doesn't have a lot of detail. It basically says what Sport and Rec gave us. We actually copied and pasted it into a bulletin to share it. But it was really saying pretty much what we've just said. But the biggest thing is when they have more info, they'll get it to us. But they're getting the same thing in relation to gyms, in relation to community sport, and in relation to outdoor recreation. Like, you know, it's really about trying to get the detail. But I think, as Andrew said before, probably the key piece is actually once the public health direction gets released. But we've been pushing for that information earlier, because if it doesn't get released until just before Christmas, it's going to be hard to get either explanations or clarifications, or even changes to it if there are issues in there, unintended consequences in there. So we've certainly been trying to be on the front foot with this and make sure of that. Which just pretty much brings me to that last slide, which is what are we doing? We're still working with them. We're talking with Education Queensland as well as Queensland Health and through Sport and Rec as well, obviously. And we know that's, yes, mate.
The one that you said you put out on Friday, is that the one that headed up Sport and Rec COVID-19 update?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So it went out. Yeah, it went out on Monday afternoon. We didn't get it until pretty late on Friday. So
yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because that was, I had a Dear Danny in front of that, and I just didn't know if everyone got it or what the story was there.
Yeah, that one went out to our network. I'm not sure what the distribution or the open rate for it was, but yeah, we sent that out on Monday afternoon.
There is a link to it in the chat here.
Oh, thanks very much, Charlie. Yep. So there you go. Yeah, ask and you shall receive, Danny. Yeah, so we'll keep on working with the government and trying to get more clarification on all of this. If you've got any specific queries, please send them through to us. You can email me directly. I think I'll just pop my email address in the chat, but most of you probably have it, but I'll pop it in here right now, and I'll probably spell it wrong because I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. But hopefully that's spelled correctly. Please send me an email if you've got specific questions that you'd like asked of government. I'll definitely ask the questions. So, well, within reason, as long as you ask me something reasonable, I'll pass it on. I just need to say that because I could see Gavin's cogs ticking over about a question. Yeah, as we go along, please ask me any questions. That if you need clarification on stuff, the chances are someone else is after the clarification too. So please reach out, let me know. More than happy to do that. That's part of the role. So yeah, please let me know. That pretty much brings us on to midday. Just a couple of reminders. One I didn't mention there. There's also some work going on with the Activate Queensland strategy, which the government introduced in 2019 before a certain thing called COVID came along and disrupted a lot of stuff. So there's some work happening at the moment Sport and Rec are doing in relation to consultation regarding the implementation of that strategy for the next 3 years. So we've shared some info on our website on that, and that's still ongoing. So there'll be some info sessions on that in the next few weeks. Our next session is going to be Friday, the 3rd of December. I almost said September. That shows where my head is. Yeah, thanks again for coming today. Thanks for Charlie for co-hosting again. Yeah, we'll just sign off now. I'd like to say, yeah, thanks again, but look after yourself, look after others, and look after the planet. Thanks very much, everyone.